Hello, my friends. Hello, hello. Greetings from an olive orchard with olives and olive plantations as far as the eye can see in southern Spain. Came here a little bit ago for a close Spanish friend's wedding. And a friend who I've known for some years. We were roommates for a year together while I was living in Spain. And yeah, I was just telling my friend there's some synchronicities that would occurred to where we were not going to be roommates together. And then some things happened and he wound up being, and if he hadn't been, then I probably wouldn't be here at this wedding and reconnecting with these people who are really cool that I met over the years, and experiencing my first Spanish wedding. And just being with them, so happy. I love seeing people happy when they're really, really being happy. We met one fellow, I knew him from before, but just barely. He's an Argentinian fellow, and he was so excited in telling us how excited he was because his baby is on the way, will be here in a few weeks. And he was so excited for her, so excited to be a father. And then he was saying, and I'm so excited, we're so excited because we know she's going to have good parents. And it's like, wow, I wish that I heard that more often, even from people who are my friends or close friends who are having children. I mean, that's been something that's really been coming up for me, is as much as I love it, I feel a real challenge with people who become parents without really taking it seriously. And I don't mean just like people that are easy to demonize that we see at Walmart or something. I mean people that I know and love, but that there's just this saying, you can never, doesn't matter how much you plan for being a parent, you can never prepare for it or whatever, that sort of thing. I don't doubt that. You can't prepare for anything in life. Everything is always going to be different from how we expect it to be, because reality is always different. But you can definitely learn some basics about how young people are impacted by the things that they're around, and the music and what they're ingesting, and the energy of the people around them can certainly, and I don't just mean conscious community, we're all doing plant medicine and talking about trauma or something. I mean empowering and disempowering is just basics. They're easy to learn, but they require practice, so they become automatic, so that when you're around a little one who's absorbing things and crafting unconsciously their identity to what they experience as important around them, your unconscious ways are guiding them in empowering positive things, even if they don't ever remember you again, if you just meet them one time. Anywho, I wanted to do a little check-in. I'm just on week 6 of The Artist's Way, and I shared back in March, I believe it was, which is a trip. Now we're getting near to the end of April, that I shared about The Artist's Way, which is a book that is very wonderful. And it's in 12 chapters, each chapter intending to take 1 week to go through, not long chapters, 15, 20 pages at the most, and wide print throughout them. There's different questions. This week is, every week that I go through it, this is the 3rd time now. So the first time I went through in 2018, which is shortly after I came back from living in Spain, where I was living with this roommate. And I was in the beginnings, the end of 2017 throughout my life I had been going in being intentional about evolving. But just previous to that, it was more focused on the things that society had placed value on that I thought were important, like business success and financial success, or getting big in the gym or whatever, learning a lot, like ingesting so much information, putting all the podcasts on 3x. How many podcasts can I ingest and how many books can I read? Like the shallowness that is so much of our culture. But beginning of 2018, so many different wonderful things came together. It was this real perfect storm of evolution. I decided to take a year off of drinking, which naturally turned into the rest of the time off of drinking. And I had just had my first psychedelic experiences, intentional, crafted for evolution. And then I was not working for anyone. I had my own small business. I had some savings, so I had this space to begin the first thing that I really dove into. I read The Power of Habit in the end of 2017, or the autumn of 2017, and that really started opening up some things with me. And then when I went back to San Diego in 2018, one of the first things that I focused on was building a morning routine and reading different books. There's simple books. One of them is The Miracle Morning. It's a really great book, and it just teaches some very basics. The basics are the power. Like when I say basics, I don't mean it in a demeaning way. The basics are where we make our money, like in the real world, and I don't mean dollars. Like the basics are what bring about the real results. And so that teaches some really nice basics for how to set up the day, and with that it comes into the conditioning of the mind. And so I had many great things come together at that time, and one of those things was that, as I mentioned in my recording back in March, that the Artist's Way came onto my radar. First I heard about it 2 different times, or from 2 different people back to back, when I was at one of my first men's councils or men's circles, which is a non-denominational, it's more in actually the Native American tradition. You can find them all over. There's no like governing body. There are some general guidelines, but people do them all different ways. The one that I was a part of, I think that my new friends who I had found after coming back to San Diego and realizing, I've been going about things differently than my friends from the past and my family members, and I've never felt accepted because we're just different and we have diverged in our focuses. And so I always felt like I was trying to either defend myself by explaining why I'm going about things the way that I am, or to try to convince them, pressure, because I see this thing is so important and so beneficial in my life. I want to share it, but I'm doing it in this like immature way of pressuring. Either way, I never really felt like I had that real deep, loving, accepting community to whom I vibed with on the same frequency. I'm very grateful for my friends and family members all over the world who give me love. We all give each other love to the best of our abilities, but we just weren't on the same exact frequencies. And somehow, when I was 33 years old, I realized as I went back to San Diego, I can be intentional about this. I can create this. I can go out and find these people. And I didn't even have that much of a plan, but it happened pretty quickly, and I connected with this community. All of us, we kind of came together in San Diego's group of 7 of us, 9 of us, and all around the same time, click, just clicked in, and really great, just to be seen and to be accepted. None of the little we just do that because we love you. We just poke, we just poke the little things. We just do the little make fun ofs and things like that. I find so basic and so not a part of my life for years now, but they were one of the first examples of what it can be, of just real appreciation, and I felt uncomfortable about it. Actually, I talked to different people about it. Like, they would share their appreciation for me because we were just on the same frequency. We weren't like, no, none of us were perfect. We all had our challenges and whatnot, but they were interested in going in the same sort of direction that I was interested in going in. And we were all at the place of maturity and confidence from inside of us to where we could express appreciation and gratitude to others. And so there would be times where we're just in, not even something like a party, you know, just together or whatever, and someone would express, man, Sam, I just love what you bring. Like, that is something that I hadn't even thought about. I love the way you do it. I'm just so glad. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I was like, wow, I'm uncomfortable receiving this because it's something so new to me, because that's not that common of a thing in my especially in my past experience. It's more common now because I know that it exists, and I realize that I don't need to settle for less. I don't need to hold it against people. I don't hold it against people if they're not at that place. We're all on our different journeys. But that doesn't mean that, like, I choose to give my time and energy in the places where it's going to have bear the most fruit. So I was at a men's circle, which I was introduced to by some friends of that group. And it's just a circle where there are men, but they do with women as well. I'm just not currently in a female body, so I haven't experienced those. But just, there's a talking stick. You go around the circle and every person speaks for several minutes, or initially just for 30 minutes, 30 seconds or a minute, just checking in, just kind of sharing whatever is on your mind. And everyone else is just active listening, no feedback. And then the next person and the next person, then you come around and do it for longer or whatnot. And initially, especially at my 20s onwards, I was very like, let's make things happen. Let's take a step, let's take action, let's change things. And so I still am about feedback. Like, I really appreciate and I'm very grateful for the not common times that I get authentic feedback, because again, we're in a society where people have been taught to feel uncomfortable about communicating their truth, and so they don't share true things. They keep it inside, or they're afraid of like hurting feelings or whatever, because the people are also not used to receiving feedback and not taking it personally, but taking it as neutral information, which is just currently occurring in the world, and I can choose whether I want to acknowledge it, want to adjust with it. I'm stoked about it. I want to go in the same direction, or, you know, like that sort of thing. But so back then I was like, oh, what's the point of sitting in a circle and talking if I'm not getting any sort of feedback? It took me a few times, and then I was like, oh wow, this is actually really valuable, because yeah, I really appreciate feedback, and it is generally quite uncommon to receive feedback that is authentic, that is unemotional, that is to support the person receiving the feedback. It's not just done out of this reactive or this, I want to show you I'm smarter than you or whatever sort of thing. That's rare, but it's also quite rare to be in a place where people authentically listen without feeling this compulsion to respond. Like, I can be safe just speaking and being heard and releasing it without needing to have in the back of my mind, oh, do I need to say it in a certain way so that in case they think this, then I need to be prepared for them to say that or whatever. So it was really nice. And at some of those gatherings, I heard different people talking about this book, The Artist's Way, and talking about they were going through it again, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that's cool, and it's interesting. I'm noting all of this stuff back then. I'm still, but and then like a couple weeks later or something, I was driving up to San Francisco, and I stopped in Big Sur, and I really love Big Sur. In the U.S., it's one of my favorite places for sure. It's a really special place. And I stopped at this monastery that I didn't even know existed. I've been to Big Sur at least probably a handful of times, and I didn't know, I'd never stopped there before I stopped there. And in their bookstore was The Artist's Way. And You know, I've probably seen it before, but I didn't know to look out for it. But my mind was freshly primed with the old reticular activating system, paying attention to things that has now been given, I've been told, or I've told the brain are important to me. You know, it's the classic thing of you get a red car and you start seeing red cars. Well, that's a tool that we can actually use for growing and evolving as well, because we're taking in billions of bytes of information every moment. And as much as I think that I'm really understanding what's happening out here, I'm getting a tiny fraction coming into me of being aware of it. And all that I'm getting is mostly the stuff that I have told my brain over the past is important, i.e. the stuff that I ingest on a regular basis, which is another reason why in my previous video where I'm talking about it doesn't matter if people say that I just like black comedy or dark humor or sarcasm and it's not really real or whatever. It doesn't matter if I say that if I ingest it over and over, my brain thinks this is what I care about. And so subsequently, that's what I experience in my life. I just experience more negativity because it's looking for negativity because I have told it. I read things that are negative. I watch things that are negative. I listen to things that are negative. And I talk about things that are negative. So clearly, I want more negative things in my life. So in this case, I saw, oh, there's the artist's way there. And so I went through 6 weeks of it in 2017. And so not right now, I'm on week 6. So I'm back at that first stopping point where I completed week 6 in 2018, And then next year, 2019, with my partner at the time, we did it again, and I went through to week 9. And then since 2019, I've had a lot of really big things occur, and I've been in a lot of different places with some really transformative experiences and lots of practice putting into place the things that she shares in this book, which are very similar or the same as things that I have extracted from other places and just from in my own life as I'm observing and giving attention to what sort of things support and reinforce me going in the direction that I'm interested in going in, which is one of being equanimous, being at peace with whatever occurs without feeling so bothered by these things I call negative or feeling so excited about these things I call positive that when they go away, I'm subsequently feeling negative or vice versa, things like that. And the big one, which has been deepening the relationship with myself and really getting to this place to where I don't remember the last time I said something like, I'm so stupid, or oh, what an idiot, or I used to do this sort of thing, like, oh my gosh, can you believe that? And then I realized, like, what am I doing right? What message am I saying to my brain right now? You know, like when we do this sort of thing, really, that's not a joke. That's reinforcing that a part of me hates myself so much that it wants to kill myself. And I think at some point, all of us have experienced those sorts of thoughts in one way or another, whether or not we're currently at the place where we're comfortable acknowledging it to ourselves because it can feel so scary. I think it's a natural part of the human experience, especially in this world we're in, where we see it so much on movies and things like that, but it's not something that I want to reinforce, so I don't do that anymore. But this book, Artist's Way, is fantastic. And so now I'm at this place. It's been some years since I've been in it, and my ability to observe and just be conscious of and aware of my experience and not be controlled by it is really gotten a lot higher. And I'm just blown away as I go through every chapter of this book. The little exercises and the things that she shares, there have been at least once every chapter where I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that it says that in here, because this is a real practice of my life now. It's a very common, like it's a natural part of my life. Like right now I'm on this chapter where she's talking about, she talks about time in emptiness and time in just being, just time without doing things. a big practice of the Artist Way, the main practice, is every morning journaling. And so journaling came out much stronger after I first did it, and it's been great to reconnect with it because I hadn't really been doing it for like 9 months or something like that. And having this time separated in space, which is a very big part of my life these days. I've taken regularly. I take days with no cell phone and days disconnected from other people. This year I've taken 3 different weeks with no cell phone and with separated from society on one of them, and then the other 2 just in retreat with a small amount of people. And I've taken months with separation and just being in nature or whatnot, and it's been such transformative time for me. And that's a part that she really shares. Also, like small little gifts and small little like luxuries of not like buying Louis Vuitton not like buying Louis Vuitton or something with a big brand name on it that is saying, hey, look at me, I just convinced these people to spend their hard-earned money on this thing that doesn't really mean anything to anyone except what I tell them that it means. That's not what I mean, though I don't pass any judgment on it. It's just something that I'm currently not at the place where it makes sense for me anymore. But luxuries like getting some blueberries at the grocery store when normally I would save that money, but I love blueberries, or picking a flower and having some fresh flowers in the room, or getting some new candles, which I did because I love being in the house with candles. Turn the light off, thank you, and let's put on some candles and have a little music and just relax or read or whatever. Those sorts of things. And that has become so much more a part of my life. One part she discusses about getting rid of, she makes it very easy. She's like, just get rid of one outfit that you don't really feel good about, that you've been carrying on. It's got this baggage, it's got this negativity or whatever. And I didn't realize, but I put that into practice because I've moved almost every year. Multiple times a year, but I've moved big moves once a year at least. And so I've got my belongings down to where I let go of these things that had old memories that were not actually very positive, but it was just, I was uncomfortable letting go of. I've gotten rid of the things that I felt guilt about because, this doesn't fit. But I paid money for it and I feel bad. It's like a waste if I don't use it, so it just kind of sits there. I don't really feel good about it. Different things, that's another one. There have been a lot. One of them is now, and at this current time in my life, I'm in lots of different countries and lots of different parts of countries. It wasn't like that before, and I imagine it's probably not going to continue like this for the rest of my life, but it's currently a part. And an unconscious practice, it's conscious, but do it automatically, is when I'm in a different place, I'm like, what is the environment like? What is the specific types of trees? How much is the amount of grass? How much is the amount of natural water, living water, moving water, waves, sun, clouds, temperature, fresh fruits, in this case olives. Portugal has tons of citrus growing everywhere, as well as these things called loquats, which are delicious. This area has a bunch of pomegranates growing. What are all of these things? And what is the underlying culture? What's the energy of that culture? What are their values and priorities? And I don't even need to sit down and think about it like, currently the United States is leading in technology and it has the global financial markets, and it seems like their values are these. I don't need to do that. It's just like I'm in the place. Like, what's the pace of life? What's the quality of life? When I walk down the street at 10:30 p.m. at night in a normal Spanish city, and I see mothers pushing their children in the strollers and young kids running around and middle-aged people sitting at tables all talking and having fun with no cell phones out, and grandparents walking hand in hand or one pushing the other in a wheelchair. When I see that, I get a feeling about what their values are, and that's what I believe that we all have the ability to influence well, let me change that. I would say we all have the ability to choose how our external environment impacts us, whether we take it on to be negative or not. And almost all of us, except for those of us who are in prisons or things like that, we have the ability to adjust, even there, to adjust our external environment in a way that supports the energy, the direction that we're interested in going, and little positive things. Just having a flower, or just putting a smiley face instead of some scrawling on the wall, or just having some color, or natural things generally bring about that energy more than chemical made things, but there's not, some of those are also very beautiful and wonderful and appreciative. So as I am in different environments, I'm giving attention to how do I feel, how does this fill me up, because I'm currently at the place where I'm not willing to live this seemingly very rare, very small amount of time that I have in this existence, in this body, just settling for something that doesn't actually support me or inspire me or fulfill me. If I know that it's available in other places, I don't need to do that. I can list, I'm not wealthy, I'm not rich, and far beyond me, I can tell you, I can connect you with, people in probably 24 countries at least, who are people who have lower financial situations than most everyone watching this film or this video, and have people who have had physical or psychological, social challenges that are quite extreme, that have still said, yeah, this situation that I'm in right now, I'm not digging it. I'm going to go to this other situation, even if it seems really difficult or almost impossible. I'm going to actively choose the life that I live, and I'm going to surround myself to the best of my ability with things that support that. And so that's where I'm at as well. And so when I'm around in all these different environments, I'm giving that attention. I'm saying, how does this fill me up? How do I feel in the mornings? Now I'm so much more sensitive to it. I was in Lisbon a couple weeks ago, or a little bit more than a couple weeks ago, and it's a cool town. It's the capital, but it's not very big. Portugal's a pretty small country population-wise. It's got lots of old stuff. I love old stuff, old buildings everywhere, cobblestone streets, small streets up and down hills, and there's water, and it's cool. But where I am now, with how sensitive I am to what really fills me up, it's just very clear to me. When I go running there in the morning, I go do my morning routine, get a little movement in, then I sit, meditate, and it's a big median, but it's a median in between streets and buildings. It's very big. It's got sculptures and stuff in it, but that doesn't change the fact that it is in the minority. The green living stuff is in the minority, and the loud, noxious, consumption-oriented stuff is in the vast majority there. And when I compare that experience to what I feel a week later when I'm on my friend's wonderful land and I'm just in nature, it's a very different experience. And so I know now, like, hey, I don't need to choose these things just because I have chosen them in the past, or because this is what everyone else is doing or whatever. And so there was a few chapters ago, I'm reading it, and one of her exercises is, what is your ideal environment? And I was like, oh, dang. I'm not saying I get everything from her, clearly, but she drops in these really nice nuggets that click with all of these other things, moving in this very positive, intentional way as I'm going. It's really been supportive for me. So if you're interested, I would be very happy to share this book with you. I'm a big fan of physical books. Right now I'm traveling with a backpack, so I'm not carrying the Artist Wake, but I have it on Kindle. So that's a second for me. Ideally, I like to have the physical because I like to highlight and take notes and things, and I put the date, and that way in these books, because these days I don't, why do I need to read a book that doesn't really something that I'm interested in rereading? Like, I don't need to do that. There's plenty of books that have messages that I'm interested in rereading at different times of my life and seeing how my perspective has evolved and how these things click. And so I love having highlights in different colors over the different years and seeing like, oh wow, I know the last time I read that, or it says the date there, I wrote this note was 2022 while I was in the olive trees. And that's the thing that was really important to me, and that's what I took there from it. And now I'm going through and I see this different thing. That's really dope, cool. It really helps me better understand myself, better connect with myself, better love myself and whatnot. Either way, if you're interested, I would love to just reach out, and I would love to send you the book. And if you're interested, last time when I shared the previous video in March, and if you haven't checked that out, and enjoy that one, it also shares nice stuff. I asked if there were people who wanted to join me as I was going through the third time, and so we have a little over 10 people. I made a WhatsApp group, and it's very casual. It's just kind of share as you want. There's no, there's no homework. There's no keeping track of you should be on this week or whatever. We've got people from 5 different continents. These are all just friends of mine, and it's like incredible that a few years ago even, but definitely 5 or 6 years ago, I wouldn't, if I put it out, my friends would have all been from, the US, different places around the US, but it wouldn't be on 5 different continents and 8 or 9 or something countries. We have people in there from their late 20s into their mid 70s, and all different ethnicities and stuff. So it's super cool to be going through this book and to be seeing different people's experiences with the journaling, with the exercises, with their insights, and it brings about real shifts. I have multiple friends of mine, including some in the group right now, but before that, and myself, where you go through this book, it brings about real shifts. You start changing things that you've been putting up with, or that you haven't even recognized or whatnot. So I spread that invitation again. If you'd like, you're welcome to join the group. I'll add you in, and you can share as you like. But it's a safe place. It's a place where people are supportive and loving to themselves. And when we do it to ourselves, we're subsequently to other people around us. It's a place where you can be authentic without feeling fear of criticism or judgment. It's a place where you don't even, none of us are perfect, but we're moving in the way of positive, empowering conditioning. And so there's not a lot of, forwarded memes in there. There's a lot of stuff that makes you feel actually good inside. So if you'd like to, you're welcome. Otherwise, have fun. Namaste.